Okay, so I'm all done with the body of my corner to corner shawl. I think the colors went together really well. I had one split here where the yarn kind of split weird, and I could have done better at blending that color in, but I didn't. I just used what I had. So I have a little bit left to do the edging. I went back and forth between, do I do one more row or is that enough? I think that's enough. I'll have enough to do the edging. Hey guys! So here is, Tori, hang on. So here is the color changer through that one ball. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so here's what it looks like on Tori. So, I mean, keep in mind she's a kid, but you know, as tall as some adults. So it's a decent size. It's, you know, it's a nice size wear over your shoulder wrap. So the one ball did pretty good, even with this pattern. Okay, so now on to the, oh, hold on, Tori's dying. Now on to the finishing. Okay, so we went as big as we wanted with the corner to corner. So now what I'm going to do is, see, I have a little bit of yarn left, and I debated if I should do another row, if it would be too much, if I wouldn't have enough yarn. I'm still not sure. This is my guess. So what I think I'm going to do is have the border go around one time as single stitches all the way around, well, except for at the top, and I'll show you that, and then do a fancy border still with this. I'm hoping I have enough to do all that so I don't have to add any other yarn. But so for a border, so here's my end. I just connected my last square on. I ended up with 3 squares at the end. So now in this kind of a pattern, to put the border on, I'm going to, right now I'm going to chain 1 just to lock that one in place. But in the open areas where it's going horizontal, I'm going to do 2 in each one. And then in these where it's vertical, I'm going to do 1 in between each one. So I'll have 1 single, 1 single, 1 single, just to kind of give me an open, even row all around. So 1 there, and I'm just doing singles. So there's a single in the vertical, single in the vertical, single in the vertical, and I'm going to do a couple here on this one because it's a corner, so I normally give it 3 just to have a little something, and then 1 more in the horizontal. So I turn the corner, so I've got my singles and verticals there. Now I'm back to the vertical, so I'm going to do 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 2 in the horizontal. And then 4 more in the verticals. 2 in the horizontal. So you get it, right? I'm going to go all the way around. Let's see, it leaves a pretty nice even all the way around. Some of my stitches are a little big, but that's okay. And I'm just going to go all the way around, and I will fast forward this, and I will meet you again at the end when we get to where the scallops stop from the corner to corner. Make sure you stop once in a while and look back and just make sure you've got your spacing right, your tension right. And that applies to all projects, of course, not just this. I was working on a corner-to-corner pillow. It was a graph, and I accidentally got off on one row, and I didn't know that I was off, and so my project was off because I didn't stop and look back at the end of the row. I just kept going, and luckily I was able to cover it because it was right in the middle, of course, so I wasn't able to fix it, but I was able to cover it. Just make sure every once in a while that you stop and look. Just make sure you're happy with what's going on. So this is the bottom corner. This will be the bottom of the back, so I gave it a little extra, few extra stitches in there just to give it a little point at the bottom. All right, so back to the edging. So here we are back at the top. So this is the side that goes along your back or your neck down the front. So because it's ruffly or stair-stepped or whatever you want to say, it's the end of the corner to corner, we're going to have to try to put some stitches in to match this up a little bit. So for this first little stair here, I'm just going to do some doubles across. So I'm going to go in the actual stitch, not the opening like I've been doing. So I'm going to go in the actual stitch and just do some doubles just to kind of even it up with the next one next to it. So one double crochet in each stitch across. Maybe. The yarn's a little fuzzy. It's kind of hard to find the hole sometimes, but there we go. All right, so that's 2 double crochet. 3 double crochet, I think I'm going to do one more right at the base just to give it a little extra volume there. And this is my pattern. I'm just kind of winging it, so hopefully it'll work. We'll see if it does or not. But there's my corner, and now we're even with this stair. So I'm going to just slip those together. And then I've got the same thing, so I'm just going to double across here and then slip them together. So it's basically the same as a corner to corner, except I'm not adding that extra every time. I'm just making them the same height. So I want to chain a couple and then go across. So 1, and like I said, I don't know, this isn't even going to work. I might have to tear it out. That's just my thought of how this will work. We'll go a few stitches in and see if it actually works that way. All right, so I'm doing it. I did a chain 3 and I did 3 stitches for each one, and then go to the next and slip stitch it. So it's well, that's not working right because it's just making an extra line. Okay, that's not going to work. Tear that out. I told you this is just my own design. I'm just kind of free-forming it here. Now, how are we going to do that to make it work? My original thought was, and let's see if it works. My original thought was to do different size stitches to pull them together. So I'm going to start with a triple. Triple? No, I'm going to start with a double. I'm going to do a double crochet, a half double crochet, which is where you pull through all of them on the hook the second time through, and then a single crochet. up here in the corner. And then connect it here with a slip. And then theoretically, you are making this more even as you go across. So now we're starting in the ruffle pattern now. So now I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to chain first to lock it in there. And I already did my slip, so I'm going to do a single, a half double, double, and a slip, chain, a single, a half double, double, slip it, chain. And that gives me, most of the way across, a pretty even line. So I'm just evening these out. So I've got my little line here, so I'm going to, so see, I'm going from the little indent to the big indent. So my stitches are going to go from little to big to match these up. So I'm going to do single, half double, double, slip it to the next one, chain just to lock it. You don't really need the chain. I just feel like it gets pulled too tight if you don't have the chain. So now we're getting a fairly even row across the top. So we're going to single, half double, double crochet, slip it to the next block. So it kind of pulls those blocks over. Chain it to lock it. Single in the same stitch, half double, double crochet, slip it to the next one. Alright, I think you got it. I'm going to do slip it and chain. So we're getting a pretty good row across here. So I'll talk out one more for you, and then I'm going to go across to the end, and then we'll see what the last tie-off looks like. Okay, so we're going to single in the same stitch, half double in the next stitch, double, slip it to the next, chain. All right, you get it. I'll meet you at the end. I'm working out in Eric's studio, which is not normally where I work, but I wanted someplace quiet so I could think through the pattern, and his office is by far the quietest spot on the entire ranch. So, you know, with 2 little kids and all the crazy animals and TVs always going and tablets and everything else that's going. There's never anything quiet. So I wanted to work out here so I could work out the pattern in the quiet. And I think it might be too quiet. I'm hoping that I actually stayed with the pattern and I didn't just, because my mind was wandering when I was crocheting, which is honestly one of the best things about crochet and why simple patterns like corner to corner are so great, because you can just do it when you're vegging, right? You're watching TV, you're sitting quietly if you ever get to do that. You know, so you don't have to focus on a pattern. You can just kind of let your mind wander while you're doing it. I'm hoping I didn't let my mind wander too much, that I actually stayed with the pattern. I think it did. I think I did, because it's staying pretty straight, but I kind of had to rein myself back in of, wait a second, you're supposed to be doing something here. Well, that's how it is. So we're to the end. Again, we made it all the way around. So this is my last join here at the end. So I'm going to slip it through, and now I've got a solid neck piece all the way across. And the only thing I need to do is finish off this one little row, because this is where we started. So I've got this one little section. So I'm just going to go back to my singles across like I was doing. Single across, because these are the verticals. So you just go between each one. And for those, I'm not doing the stitches, I'm doing the spaces. So I'm way down here in the space, not up in the stitch area where I was, the top of the stitches where I was doing the other. So here's where I'm meeting up. One more, boom, and then I'm going to slip it into this first one, which I did too tight, and now it doesn't want to slip through there, but I just got it kind of in the right area, hopefully. So we slip that through, boom. The first round of the border is done. So there's the neck. It's kind of hard to see against itself. Let me see if I can pull this out of here. Like I said, I'm in Eric's studio, so there's weird action figure parts all around. So there's the top that'll go on the neck. I think that turned out really well after we figured out the cadence of the pattern, but I think that worked out real well. It's going to make a nice top. And I think when I go back, I'm just going to do a straight single stitch across here and then fancy stitches down here. So that'll be the next wrap-up video, and honestly that's only because I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet for the fancy part down here, but I still have this much yarn left. I'm hoping that'll get me through, because I only have to do 2 sides, right? Because the top side I'm going to do in just a single stitch across. So we should be good, and I will see you again for the final round of the fancy border.